Late again. Really trying to get this under control. Whatever. My name's Misha. I'm here to talk to you about insulin resistance and how it links to a number of the health issues you have so we can start putting all of the pieces together and hopefully people can start to get their health back. And I do talk about a protocol that I used to reverse my diabetes and a number of these symptoms up above. So we're going to go through it step by step. I think it's really important always to understand insulin resistance first, so that when I start linking it to these other things, you can kind of understand what's happening in the body and it will make more sense. I try not to get too sciencey, but if I start using words or saying things that just don't make sense, please let me know. I've been told I do that sometimes. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm a real life person just like you. I suffered with all the things up above. And when doctors and nutritionists and gym guys who wanted to write programs for me couldn't address all the stuff going on, I found this protocol by chance that I'm going to share with you, and it changed my entire life. Yesterday, I was out on a 2-hour hike with my grandson and my daughter-in-law. Beautiful sunny day. But the blessing in that was that 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to take that hike. I had a walker, a cane, and disability plates. I also had debilitating neuropathy, which kept me from working in medical clinics anymore. And so I was relegated to driving for Lyft and Uber to try and make a living. All of that changed, and this right now, we're going to talk about how that changed, okay? So for those of you who don't understand insulin resistance, we're going to break it down super simple. It's really just a dietary disorder. It's actually called, most metabolic scientists are now saying, we got it wrong. We shouldn't be calling it insulin resistance. We should be calling it glucose dysregulation. Big words. Glucose is just the energy that your body uses. When we eat food, it turns into glucose in our system. Cue the word energy. Our body needs energy to function, to do all the things and replicate and do all the processes it has going on in it. So every single cell in the body needs energy. Every single cell in the body needs glucose. That means every single cell in the body has insulin receptors on it. Why insulin? How did we go from glucose to insulin? This is how. Insulin is a hormone. It's a special class of hormones called peptides. But what this insulin hormone does is it delivers that glucose as energy to the cells of the body. The bodies don't really have this glucose receptor that says, come on in. They have an insulin receptor that unlocks the cell and allows the glucose in, allows the energy in. So when we eat and our blood sugar spikes, our glucose spikes, our blood system can only have about 1 teaspoon of blood sugar in it at a time, or it starts to have devastating effects. So when the body starts to sense this rise of glucose in the bloodstream, brain cues the I'm thinking of two different things. The hypothalamus cues the pancreas to start putting out this hormone. Now, the pancreas puts out more than insulin, but right now we're going to talk about insulin. So when it produces insulin in a normal diet, in a normal person, that's an amazing thing because that insulin is carrying the energy, the cells are getting it, and we're functioning. We have good amounts of energy. We don't have fatigue. We don't have brain fog. We don't have all the stuff going on. The body's getting the right amount of energy. But when the body is flooded with too many of those signals too often, so it goes from glucose dysregulation to hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the system all the time because we have too much energy in the system all the time, to insulin resistance. Now, when we're flooding the system with too much insulin, a lot of the cells are going to say, no, I don't want any more of you. You were just here 30 seconds ago and delivered a delivery, and I just don't want any more of this. So go away. Now, some cells are just going to be like, if we think about it like a crowd of people, there are some people that are like, "Ooh, no, get away! I don't want the drama. I don't want all the stuff. Just stay away from me." There are other people who are going to just be going on about their lives, doing their thing without all of the reaction, right? Then there are people who are going to be like, "Yeah, I like this. I want the drama," and they're going to be like, "Give me more, give me more." Insulin resistance goes from overactive cells to normal acting cells to underactive cells. And that's the complication with calling it resistance, because some cells are really not resistant, they're hyperactive to it. All right. All of this just means that we've eaten too much sugar too often, right? Well, even people who are vegetarian or having clean diets have experienced these problems. So, what's going on? The problem is that our food is no longer the same as it was. 93% of us are insulin resistant, and that's a huge problem in the world. If 93% of us are insulin resistant, is it really each individual person's problem? Are they just that bad of a person that they caused this to be in their life? I'd like to think that there's something else going on, and so do scientists, that 93% of us have this one commonality going on. And that is that we're eating too often, and we're eating foods that have been stripped and devoid of nutrients, including something called fiber. Now, eating too often, you hear, and actually, how many of you guys have been told to eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism going? Like, how many? Because I see influencers all the time who are saying, oh, you want to lose weight, you want to do this, you want to do that. Don't worry about intermittent fasting. That's a bunch of baloney. You should be eating every 2 hours. That's going to keep your metabolism flowing. Yeah, there are too many people, Michelle, that all have the same problems. And I promise I'm going to get to the neuropathy part, but I'll delve into this a little bit more later. But I was having a conversation with a young lady yesterday. And she was talking about a very smart girl, but it happens to be what happens to most of us. We get information and it's not always maybe the right information. So she had her gallbladder removed and she was blaming it on a high cholesterol diet. We'll get into that later. And I started to say, wait, no, that's not the cause of it. And she goes, just stop. Not everything is caused by insulin resistance. And I'm like, let me talk to you for a second, because almost all of the disease and disorder that we have today is linked to insulin resistance. Is it all caused by it? No. But is it all linked? Absolutely, it is. There's more and more science and data showing up that shows that all of these things, this disarray going on in our body, is linked to insulin resistance. We're going to get into neuropathy in a second. But look, I felt that way at first. And you guys, when I get questions from y'all and I have to go look up and do research, not have to, because I love to do this stuff, to do research, in the back of my head, I'm always like, not always, because there's sometimes when I'm like, oh, this is definitely linked to insulin resistance. And then there's sometimes when I'm like, oh, it's possibly, but this is probably going to be the time that it's not. Well, I have yet to look up something that's not somehow linked to insulin resistance, making it worse or creating it in the first place. So neuropathy is one of those. Neuropathy is a big subject though, because there's so many different types of neuropathy, and it can be caused by a number of things. Now, neuropathy can be caused by injuries directly to the nerve, to the spinal cord, to the head, to a number of different areas. So there's that. I'm not going to deny that. However, I want to say this: even if you have those type of injuries and you have neuropathy, would it be worth knowing that if you have insulin resistance, it's probably making the neuropathy worse? So in this instance, if it's a damage, did the insulin resistance cause it? No. But can the insulin resistance make it worse? Absolutely, it can. Now, for a number of us, neuropathy is caused by B12 can help, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. Let me get through the neuropathy part, and I'll tell you what I did that healed mine, because my feet were swollen. I did a video last week that showed my feet with neuropathy, right? And edema. And I couldn't walk on them. It was painful. So I literally sat on the couch or in my desk chair or in the car to drive. But I had a hard time walking, and it wasn't all joint pain. It was a lot of this neuropathy. I couldn't wear regular shoes. I remember buying shoes that were elastic, so they would shrink and swell with my feet. I couldn't wear regular athletic socks anymore. I had to buy diabetic foot socks, and I remember buying a whole big batch of socks for both myself and my mother, and joking that I should buy stock in a diabetic foot sock company. I don't have those socks anymore. I donated them, got rid of them, don't have those shoes. In fact, those shoes are all too big for me now. My feet are normal every single day. Good morning, Melba. So This is what happens with neuropathy inside your body when insulin is causing this disarray and dysfunction with everything going on in your body. One of the places it does that is in your nerves. When the nerves are not getting in enough energy because they can't take in that, they're resistant to the insulin, so the insulin receptors are not functioning. Insulin is unable to deliver energy into those nerve cells. Now we have nerve cells that are not functioning like they should. Sometimes it even causes breakdown between the ends of the neural pathways, and so that the firing doesn't happen from pathway to pathway, and it can actually go out the sides of the nerves and cause this phantom electric pain that you're having. And sometimes it causes those nerves to overreact, causing that pain. So insulin resistance is directly linked to this nerve pathway. I've talked about it a lot and how it affects the brain. And if it's affecting the brain and its neural pathways that way, it's affecting the rest of your body too. Now, the most common neuropathy that's linked to all of this is called peripheral neuropathy. That's where you have this numbness and tingling, and it can be any place in the body. Your hands, for me, I had it in my right arm, I had it in both of my hands, I had it in my feet, in my knees, my lower legs. It was painful and it was frustrating, and I don't suffer from it anymore. Now, I didn't know that I was going to overcome all of that by doing this one thing for diabetes. I just wanted to get my diabetes numbers under control, and I wanted to lose a little weight because I had to have a surgery that they wouldn't do without me losing some weight. So I started this protocol. Now I'm going to explain why the protocol works. Your order came. You really like the apple spice. Tastes like apple pie. I can't wait to get my apple spice in, Melba. But you guys will see today. I'm going to mix up some tea right now, but I have older packets. The packets look like this. So because I'm a nut for this stuff, one of my friends came over. She was like, "You have more product in your house than anybody I've ever known." But that's because I'm on a mission to fix my health. So it's a tea that I have in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before I eat anything. So I just mixed one up hot. You guys are seeing me drink that, but I always have a second one cold. So I'm going to put some water in my stainless mug. You guys, we had power outages this weekend, and I just realized that the breaker for my fridge was flipped, so I have no ice today. Craziness. I'm glad I found it now, and glad it's grocery shopping day today, so I didn't waste a lot of food. Okay, so I put the water in. Now I'm just going to tear these packets open. By the way, I do this a lot. I mix matcha and tea together, and I call it a Unimatcha bomb. Amazing for energy, amazing for metabolism. No, this is not breaking my fast. So I'm in a fasted state. I had my dinner about 6 p.m. last night. Now, no, I didn't. Yes, I did. For dinner, I wasn't really hungry, so I had some uncured ham and some spinach artichoke dip. Crazy foods I put together, but it tasted great, and it was high in fat and protein, right? That's what I wanted to do. So what we're going to do for the healing is this. Understand that our foods are, I never did Ozempic. The doctor prescribed metformin for me. I wouldn't do Ozempic because of all the negative things I heard about Ozempic. Stevia does not break your fast either. As long as it's small amounts. You guys don't get crazy with stuff, right? Anything that's going to spike your brain saying that you have sugar for energy is going to start breaking your fast. This has, I think we want to keep it below 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates in a fasted state. This doesn't have near that in it. But when I've tested like my ketones, and I talked to Dr. Bickman about it, what I did when I first started was I would test my ketones in the morning, and then when I had my tea, my ketones generally go up after having the tea, which is what they're supposed to do. The shocking part to me was my ketones went up when I had the pre-meal drink, even without eating, and that's part of what I talked to Dr. Bickman about. But these do not break my fast, and fasting is extremely important. So let's go over some of the protocol to help you get better. By the way, I love the tea hot or cold. That's cold. This one's hot, so I'm going to go back to this one. Now, So if we understand that our food is imperfect, and why is the eating every 2 hours such a bad thing? Because if you've been trying to do the eat smaller meals, eat every 2 hours to get your metabolism up, put a one in the chat. And I hear influencers who are meaning well. So I never go in and say anything to them. I don't want it done to me, but it's a lot of misinformation. Now they're doing it from a place, I tend to believe that they're doing it from a place of well-intentioned information, right? They think they're saying the right thing. They think they're doing what's best for people. And so they're trying to share it, just like I'm doing. But the difference is they'll say those things, but they don't have any science behind it. Now, I've done multiple videos showing the scientific papers behind the stuff I say, and I'll continue to do that. I bought into eating every 2 hours too. In my late 20s, I bought into that. And guess what? I maintained my weight for a little while. But then in my 30s, I'm reading a comment. I'll read the comment out loud in a second. I started gaining weight. My blood pressure was already up in my late 20s. By the time I was 28, I already had a regular blood pressure that was running upwards of 150 on the systolic number and way above 80 on the diastolic number. So um, it got so bad that I went to the hospital in my mid 30s because my blood pressure on the top number was ranging that day between 180 and 240, and on the bottom it stayed like 150 to 160. Now, I knew enough the way my body felt and that those numbers were way out of whack that I called my daughter because I was also losing eyesight, and she rushed me to the hospital. They wouldn't believe that my blood pressure was that high. They ran my blood pressure 3 times. All of a sudden, I got thrown in a chair and taken back to the back of the hospital for observation, and they started running tests. Now, since my mid 30s, for over 20 years, I had been cycled on different types of blood pressure medication. No one was able to get my blood pressure under control. One of my physicians is a personal friend, and she was terrified. She was like, I don't know what to do. We got to figure this out. You can't live with blood pressure this high. You're not going to be around much longer if it continues. Normal days, 199 over 120. Hospital, yeah. Okay, Marla. So I hope I saw that right. Marla. Let me read some of these. Yeah, so semaglutide, the highest dose, it's a GLP-1 activator. We can talk about that in a minute. But if it's not working, you guys, what we want to understand is before we start talking about all the medications and get into all of that, when we look at our health, there's a few times when we need medicine, right? I'm not going to say we don't. Like antibiotics can be absolutely life-saving. Pain medications, when you've had an injury, like I've had almost 20 broken bones across my body. I've had 3 joint replacement surgeries. I'm going to tell you, when I had my knee replacement, thank God for pain medications. So I'm not saying medications don't have a place or aren't good for us. But when we're talking about our normal day-to-day, are we really, especially when we're talking about anything linked to insulin resistance or diabetes, are we really deficient in a medication? Is giving us a medication like semaglutide, Mounjaro, tirzepatide, Trulicity, any of those, Ozempic, is that going to fix the deficiency that caused us to be sick? No, it's not. It's going to force our body to go through processes to try and mimic what it should be doing if it wasn't deficient. So let's get into that. Eating every 2 hours is causing your metabolism to be stuck. I'm going to say it that way. So when you're eating every 2 hours, you're training your body to live on sugar. Now we're going to back up one more step. Our metabolism, the rate at which our body uses fuel, metabolism, and how our body uses fuel, metabolism. We have 2 fuel sources in reality for our body for fuel. One is sugar. Okay. High amounts of sugar are what are leading us to be insulin resistant. And that requires the insulin hormone to deliver that sugar. The second source we have for energy is called fat. Now, fat doesn't require insulin, but when insulin is down, glucagon, the component hormone, comes up and we're allowed to burn fat. So, sugar burner or fat burner, those are the two sides of metabolism. When you're eating every 2 hours, you're continually telling your body it needs to use sugar for fuel. Now, for most people who've been insulin resistant, it can take 8 or more hours for insulin to come down after you've had your last meal. Now it takes another couple of hours before the body goes, oh, hey, insulin is down. We still need energy. We still need stuff going on. So, glucagon, it's your turn to come out and play. Now, when glucagon comes out, your HGH, human growth hormone, your ketones, little messengers telling you to burn fat for fuel, go up. And a number of other processes start happening in your body. Um, so eating every 2 hours is only keeping your insulin up, but when your insulin is up, it's blocking fat breakdown. Now, a lot of them will tell you to eat every 2 hours and then severely restrict your calories, but they're recommending, like the one lady was like, oh, get rid of that fat and have a piece of bread instead. No, no, that's causing a spike of insulin. So eating every 2 hours is not, big word, efficacious. It's not what we should be doing for our health. It's keeping us stuck in insulin mode. And if insulin is the problem, why would we ever do that to ourselves? We need to allow our system to switch from insulin to glucagon or from sugar to fat for fuel. And when we do that, we're what we're called metabolically flexible. But that flexibility, allowing insulin to come down, doesn't happen when you're pouring more sugar in your face. Now, that sugar could be from your raw fruits and vegetables, because when we look at macronutrients, the three big nutrients, we have protein, we have fats, and we have carbohydrates. So just simply break it down like this. If it's not a protein and it's not a fat, then it is a carbohydrate. Well, some fats, some carbohydrates do have some protein and fats in them, right? So, but if it's not a real protein source like animal meats, or a fat source like avocados or olive oil or whatever, you have to start looking at the fact that it is a carbohydrate. So when you look at your nutrition panels, you're going to see different levels of numbers on there. You're going to see a protein number. You're going to see a fat number. You're going to see a fiber number on there too, because fiber, now we're going to go a further step down. Fiber is an indigestible carbohydrate. So when fiber gets into your system, there's two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. Soluble soaks up water and it expands in your gut. So now you're starting to feel fuller before you've even eaten anything else. It helps you feel full longer. Fiber does a lot of good in that way. It also encapsulates and slows down fats and sugars so they're not hitting the intestinal tract where they get into the bloodstream too quickly. So God, the universe, nature put in, very simply, in our foods, fiber for this purpose. What we've done in our human brilliance is to say, well, we don't like tiny and crunchy and hard foods. We want things that are big and juicy and sweet. And so how did they get there? How did we modify peaches from being the size of this to the size of this? Well, we stripped out things like fibers, enzymes, nutrients from the peaches to pump up the sugar level. So even when you think you're buying food that's organic, that's clean, that's whatever, you're still not getting the same function out of the food as we did like 50 years ago. I grew up on a small farm in North Idaho, and we grew our own foods. I remember what those foods looked like when I had to go out and work in that garden every day and pick foods, pull foods, and work with animals, all of that. So our foods are very different today. And what's happened is this imbalance. Nature put a perfect scale in there for us for our foods. So anytime there was a carbohydrate, it was wrapped in fiber so that the fiber could slow down the delivery of that energy to the system. Now, we need the energy, but we don't need it all in one fell swoop. We don't need it all at once. This leads into something called hypoglycemia, reactive hypoglycemia as well. So now we're spiking our blood sugar because we have these foods that are imperfect, And insulin is so prevalent because we've been eating every 2 hours and we're keeping our insulin levels high that we get this blood sugar spike. Insulin is like already out, so it grabs all that sugar and pushes it anywhere it can, and now our blood sugar dips and we have this reactive hypoglycemia. There's a piece in there I want to go over in a second, but so if you're having chills after you eat, if you're feeling tired after you eat, if you ever have, put a 1 in the chat. If you've ever felt like after you eat, like I used to feel like somebody poured cold water all over me. I was super tired. I just wanted to crawl under a blanket and lay down and sleep. And for years, people said it was tryptophan or this or that or the other thing in the foods. Well, what if it's really just this reactive hypoglycemia, that your blood sugar levels drop so much that your body perceives it needs energy? The other side of that is now your body says, "Ooh, I need energy." And so you're hungry, because hunger is a cue for you to give your body energy. Hunger really is just telling your body you need energy. And so when we have this dysregulation going on, we're constantly fighting that. Well, one thing I skipped is, if all the other cells are resistant or are becoming resistant or not utilizing the insulin in the way it should, insulin still has a package to deliver. Okay. It still has a package to deliver. So even if it's not delivering it to the cells that it should, you want to know where it goes? It goes to the storage unit. What's your storage unit? Your fat cells. So I had a couple-hour conversation with a beautiful woman from New Zealand last night, and we were talking about all this. And I'm like, you know, when we're the reason why so many people don't understand that this is their problem, and they're saying, I'm not diabetic, I'm not this, I'm not that, is because they're relying on blood sugars. Now, only when those fat cells start to become full after insulin is pumping all this excess energy in there, the fat cells are self-preservatory as well as the rest of your cells. At some point, the fat cells are like, man, I can't take any more. I'm stretched, literally stretched to my limits. And if I take in any more, I'm going to explode and I want to survive. So it either stops taking in the insulin or starts just spilling it back out like a water balloon that's too full. Now your blood sugar levels are rising. Now you start being diagnosed as pre-diabetic and diabetic, but it all starts with high levels of insulin. There's a ton of messages. Let me come back and see what I've missed. You were fine until surgery. You now have almost all of these symptoms and unable to eat fat. What kind of surgery did you have, Michelle, that you're unable to eat fat? Normal most days is okay. That high blood pressure, I'll talk a little bit about blood pressure this morning. Yeah, okay. All right. So many ones in there. Now, so what we need to do, you guys, is I'm going to go over those right now. I have 6 simple tips. You guys, if you use my link, and I will put it here on Facebook, there's a book called, a little ebook I wrote called 6 Simple Steps. These are those 6 simple steps, but get the ebook. It's free to you. Just use it, read it, try to understand the brief information that's in there. It's a very short little 15-page ebook or something. But it explains all of this stuff in detail. And so you can go back and remember what it is that she said, right? So get the ebook. But these are the 6 simple steps. You got to get in fiber first. Fiber first because it's helping you feel full before you eat. And then when you do eat, it's allowing those sugars and foods you eat to be encapsulated and slowed down. One of the other things that we have in the absence of fiber, we start having things like IBS and Crohn's and all of those things. Thank you for the love. But we start having malnutrition because it's not just the sugar that's passing through quickly. Our micronutrients, vitamins and minerals are going through too quickly. You could end up with things like anemia, vitamin D deficiencies, magnesium deficiencies, a number of other things because your body cannot, iron absorption deficiencies, because your body cannot absorb the nutrients in time as they're flushing through your system. So if you're like, I eat a lot of protein, and I eat a lot of spinach, but I'm still anemic. How does that happen? Well, pay attention. Is food going through you too quickly? Because if it is, you cannot absorb the iron and you become anemic. There's a number of other things. So we want to get those blood sugar levels in control by adding in fiber first. Then, and you'll see a number of other people talk about this too. There's a great guy, and I cannot remember his name. I see him mostly on YouTube, but he does a lot of CGM tests where he has a plate of food and then he has a similar plate of food in a different way and he tests what happens to his blood sugars. But what we found is that if you put protein in first, now I always do fiber and then I prioritize protein. We're not getting in near enough protein, and there's been a lot of science that kind of debunks the old stuff that was being said about protein. And trust me, I bought into some of the old stuff too. So I'm right there with you guys. We need about a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight to be healthy. Remember, protein is a building block, and it's not just the muscles. It's not just your skeletal muscles. Your heart, your liver, all of those tissues need protein to build. Okay. If we're not getting in enough protein, you're going to start seeing muscle wasting. You're going to start seeing bone density problems. You're going to start seeing failure within your organs because they're not getting the building blocks to function properly. Protein, prioritize protein. And you can eat, the new science is saying you can eat about 100 grams of protein in a sitting. Your body will use about 40 to 50 grams immediately. The rest of it doesn't get peed out or sent to fat like we used to think, but it does get utilized over time if you're doing this intermittent fasting, if you're doing the things I talk about and not eating every 2 hours. Okay. So for me, I eat 2 meals a day. And some people are like, oh my God, you only ate 2 meals in one day. Yeah, I do it every day. But the calories and the protein that I get in the 2 meals I eat are about the same as what I used to eat when I ate 3 meals, or worse yet, when I ate 6 meals a day. I just have less sugars in my day because I'm focused on this. Fiber first, protein, and then you want to don't fear fats and fill with fats. So I'm going to go over why these things in a second. And then you want to limit your carbs. And so remember, carbs are not just the starches and the potatoes and the rice and the bread. I'm talking about all your fruits and vegetables. If they're high on the glycemic scale, limit them. So stick to dark green above ground vegetables. Great. Okay. Then you want to do some intermittent fasting or watch the clock. And then you want to move your body. Why the intermittent fasting? I talked a little bit about it in the insulin. So we're going to talk about it right now. 6 hours, if you have your dinner at 6 p.m. and we think that it's about 8 hours before insulin goes down, and then it's about 10 hours before glucagon goes up, if you have a snack in there at 10 p.m., now that 10-hour point is at 8 a.m. Now you're eating a meal again, and most of us are waking up to bagels and cream cheese or oatmeal or pancakes or waffles or something that's high in carbohydrates, a ton of fruits. And what you're doing is immediately shutting glucagon down and allowing insulin back out. What we want is to have about a 16, thank you, Siri, about a 16-hour eating window where we're not taking in that kind of food that's spiking our insulin. So glucagon can do the cleanup job it's supposed to do. Okay. So that's why intermittent fasting. Am I hungry during my intermittent fast? No, because I'm drinking this tea. The tea helps shut down the hunger in my brain and in my gut. It gives me a ton of nutrients. So I'm not depleted at all. I have better mental clarity, better energy, and I'm burning fat for fuel, but I'm not hungry. And it tastes great, you guys. It just tastes great. So at first, I didn't understand, but as I've done research, I found out that this tea also has antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory properties. If you're like me and you were suffering with neuropathy, you probably have all of the above as well. And if you're like me in today's world, and I'm 60, and I worry about cancer, I don't like spend all day going, oh my God, am I going to get cancer? Because that's definitely going to create cancer, right? But I'm like, you know what? You should probably take good care of your body. Make sure that you're getting in nutrients and not too much of things because, you know, the risk of cancer goes up with age. And that is partly because of all of the damage we've done to our body for the years beforehand. So I'm on a mission now to clean up this house. It's like I took a 60-year-old house that had been living with hoarders in it, and now I'm trying to make it this beautiful house that can compete with the houses next door. Maybe not compete with, but compare with, whatever. I just want my house to be as good as it can be. So I'm doing a lot to help my health. This system is one of them. And why the system? So when I do the tea in the morning, I already talked about that. That's helping me through the fasted state, makes it a breeze. I've done 3, 5, 7-day, 10-day fasts just drinking the tea. And I did just fine and actually started feeling better after it. Not going to lie, it took a lot of mental prep work for me to be able to do those fasts. And I'm really not there right now. Would I love to do a 10-day fast again? I don't know if I'm going to do a 10-day, 3 or 5-day maybe, and get the benefits from that. But I love fasting now that I'm used to doing it. And now that I know I can have this as well as water, this tastes great, it shuts down my hunger. It makes it all easy. Now, why fasting? Because when I'm fasting, it's cleaning up all those old cells, cells that are inflamed, cells that are dying off, cells that just need to go. All of these cells that are at risk of becoming cancer cells if they don't get out of my body. Fasting, you guys, I'm not supposed to talk about cancer, but I can't help myself. Fasting is actually really good for preventative work for cancer. There's a lot of science on that as well. That cleanup, that autophagy helps reduce your risk in the first place. Am I going to say it's going to cure cancer? Don't have enough data on that. But is it a good preventative measure? Absolutely, it is. Okay. The free link, okay, in my bio, yes. So you guys, if you just go tap on my picture right up here, there's going to be a white box come up below because you're in my live stream. And then when that white box comes up, tap on it. You're going to get to my my TikTok page, and I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. It's going to look like this, and I'll show you right where the link is. Okay. Okay. So sorry, my camera's a little dirty right now. So if you see my picture right here with the red glasses, there's these red lights. Right below the red lights is the link. Click on that link, and it's going to take you to, if you're interested in the protocol, you can just send me a message, and I will message you right back and give you all the information you need. If you just want the ebook is right here. But it's just that link in my profile, and I will promise I'll put it in Facebook in here in just a second. So there's that. Now, those 6 simple steps, right? Fiber first, prioritize protein, fill with fats, limit carbs, do some time-based eating, and move your body. Those are all that I do. It's not that complicated. It's funny, on the hike yesterday, I haven't been moving my body as much because I sit at this desk. As much as I advocate for it, I also want to say, in the conversation I had yesterday, it was a wonderful woman who was also a high performance athlete like I used to be. And we talked about the depression and whatnot that you go through when you have to stop competing and working as a high level athlete. It's rough. I wasn't prepared for it. It's rough. There's a lot of changes that go on mentally and physically when you stop performing as a high performance athlete. So I battle with that. Now, I lost my way, right? Like, I'm like, well, if I'm not training for a competition, what do I do? So I'm working on finding gentler ways to work out my body that are still going to give me energy, that are still going to give me the movement that I need, like that 2-hour hike yesterday. The 2-hour hike was a big wake-up call for me of how much more I need to move my body. So we're going to be working on some things and hopefully get me moving more like I used to. And that also actually helps with insulin resistance, because 20 to 35% of the energy usage in your body goes directly to your muscles. If your muscles aren't needing energy, they're not taking it up. So one of the best ways to become insulin sensitive, besides the first ones that I mentioned, is to actually just move your body. That could be a 10-minute walk after you eat each one of your meals. Hopefully you're adding some weight resistance training in there. Now, I have another friend who was a former baseball player, has a lot of joint injuries. And so we were talking about his workouts, and they're very different now than what they used to be. He only uses about 10-pound weights because of the joint damage. So whatever it is, do some weight-bearing exercise. It actually helps with your bone density, with the muscle usage of insulin, and you're going to start feeling better. It doesn't have to be the crazy weights that I used to lift. Just move your body. add some weight resistance training. If it's at home, you can always take a backpack and fill it full of weight and do that. Go on a walk with a backpack on it. That's some weight resistance. But I mean, and these are some of the things that I work with people on, by the way, just helping you understand how to move throughout your daily life without changing things drastically and still get better. So the tea that I'm drinking in the morning, the fiber that I have before every meal. This weekend, my son is deployed. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life. I have autism, I have ADHD, which means I hyperfixate and hyperfocus. So I can give myself some anxiety. Even with all the tools that I've learned to manage it, it still gets to me every once in a while. Plus I have something, talking to another woman, that I like to term native gut, and it's a real thing. If you're a native, Aboriginal, Indigenous person, you will understand what I mean by that. But we tend to have more acidic gut problems than anyone else. Do I use Tums or anything anymore? No. You know what I do when plus I have no gallbladder, so gastritis, if I get a hold of food that has seed oils in it, or too much sugar, I get sick. How do I deal with my gut when I'm sick? I just add in this without anything else, and it actually, that same coating activity in that starts to fill up my gut and absorb some of those excess acids and allows me to have a more normal day when I'm having that high acidic property in my gut. So the fiber helps me feel full before I eat, keeps me feeling full long after I eat, slows down the delivery of sugars and fats into my system, and the system together, a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. This system is what reversed my diabetes, my neuropathy, and all of that. And it's super simple. You just mix it in water. Can't find the tea in my link. So you're going to message me, and then I'm going to send you the link, and as well as why the system works, and hopefully find out a little bit about you, so we know if this is actually the thing for you or not. Because look, there's a 90-day money back guarantee on the system. Do it for 90 days. You guys, it's a natural food system that's getting people off of medications. But if you can't give it 90 days, then please don't start it at all, because you're just going to waste your money and both of our time. I want people who are saying, okay, I want a better way. I'm going to understand that I caused this damage in my body for years of eating improperly, because that's what I was given, but I'm going to give it 90 days to see what can happen. Give it 90 days. Some people start to notice changes right away, because they're very self-aware and they see all of these changes happening and they're like, yeah, this is great. I notice all these things. Other people are not as self-aware, and it's okay, but they maybe don't notice changes in their body right away. And it may take them 90 days to recognize the changes they're looking for. I was just looking for my numbers to come down and for my weight to come down. But because I'm so self-aware and tracking all of these things, I started noticing I had less leg cramps. My skin tags went away. My dark skin coloration went away. My hair started growing in. My teeth and gums stopped bleeding. My eyesight got better. All of this stuff that was getting better for me during those 3 months, including my blood pressure dropping, meant that it was working. But if you're not looking at those, if you're only looking at the scale weight, then you're not going to see all the great things that are happening in your body. So, Brock, I heard about Tabata from Vishen Lakhiani of Mind Valley years ago, but isn't it is Tabata where you work out for a minute and take a minute break, or a minute and then take a 30-second break? Can you tell me a little bit more? I can look it up later, but I'd love for you to tell me about Tabata. Now, what I do now for exercise is I try to set alarms. And even if I'm not getting to the gym, but I want to go to the gym because it makes me feel good. I love being in the gym. I have always been in the gym. Since I was in high school, I've been going to the gym to work out. But I found a number of movements at home that are full body movements that engage and stretch the whole body. And some of them are, some of the things I do now are where there's intense movement for a certain amount of time, and then I take a short rest, and then I do this certain amount of time again. And yeah, it takes 10 to 15 minutes, including You guys, funny story. I've taken up gaming. My 7-year-old grandson wanted to play Fortnite forever, and I have never, ever, 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 ever owned a gaming system or ever wanted to, but I plugged into it, found out it's really good for my brain, but I spend a lot of time gaming with my grandson on the weekend. What I've told him though is that between games, we have to get up and either do squats off the couch or dance or do some kind of movement while the new game is resetting to prompt both of us to be more active and healthy during those times. And it seems to be working, and he's happy with it, and I'm feeling better. Tabata squats are squats for 20 seconds, 10 seconds rest. Ooh, for 8 sets. For 8 sets. I'm going to try that today. Tabata squats. I haven't had a bar on my back for squats for a while because of my joint issues. But talking to my powerlifting friends yesterday, I was like, oh, I really, really, really want to feel that again. It's just tough for me because I know I'm not going to compete again. And there's naturally going to be that want to work out like that. And it's not where I'm at now. So I have to shift. But okay. So you guys, it is almost time for me to go. I know it was a short one this morning. I know we didn't talk about neuropathy as much as I would like to, but understand there are many different types of neuropathy. Insulin resistance, dampening the pathways of energy in your nerves, is causing a number of people's neuropathy. That's why I've gotten better. I will put Greg has a story of neuropathy where he's gotten better. I've heard more and more and more stories of people who are doing the system and their neuropathy just got better. So when we get back to that, insulin resistance doesn't cause everything. Again, I'm going to say it, but it sure is linked to most everything. If we can understand that, if we can understand that our food is defunct, that we're not supposed to be eating as often as we should, follow those 6 simple steps I talked about. And for those of us who are not, like, look, I did all this stuff. It's not that I don't have fortitude. It's not that I don't have will to do stuff. And it's certainly not that I lay on the couch and eat donuts all day. But intermittent fasting always seemed really tough to me because I was so sugar addicted. So these 3 products, the tea in the morning and the 2 pre-meal drinks, changed everything for me. I will probably allergy, nasal drainage. Sorry. My kids know that I want that in my hands until the day I'm put in the ground, because it gave me my life back in that way. And every day I get to spend time talking to people about getting their health back or the amazing things it's done for them. So again, and this tea, by the way, so we're going to come back. Brock, you lost 40 pounds with the system. That's amazing. And with the intermittent fasting, you're now in ketosis. So we don't need to be in ketosis all the time, but we need to be in ketosis some of the time. When you're highly insulin resistant, it's really hard to get in ketosis without those longer fasts that I did in the beginning to try and kickstart things. And you'll notice that your ketones vary wildly in the beginning, right? Your ketone levels, and I was really proud of myself because I didn't understand everything at the time. But I was really proud of myself that my ketones were getting so high. But do you know what those really high levels of ketones in the beginning were? They were a body that was like freaking out because it didn't have sugar and it didn't know what to do. Now my ketone levels, whether I'm eating or whether I'm fasted, stay in a certain range, which means my body is able to flex and switch between sugar and fat more readily than it did 3 years ago. And I just follow the simple principles still. I'm going to try the Tabata squats today. I'm going to try that. And hopefully, eventually, I will be adding weight back on, and eventually meaning pretty darn soon, because I'm sick of this not lifting and whining and not taking care of myself like I know I should. I'll always be honest with you guys. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it. If I'm not, I'm not. And We all are human, right? We all have mistakes, but the best thing about being human is that we can choose to do better the next time. Okay. Today is the next day. So it's time to do better. So Divine, just message me on that link for WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp because I have people all over the world and it just makes it easier. If you're here in the US and you just want to contact me directly, I'll put my number here and you can just contact me. And I will get you all the information and we can have a conversation. Okay, so that's my number here in the US. Hopefully it showed up. Or you use the link and get a hold of me on WhatsApp if you're not in the US so that it's not costing you money. I spend a lot of time talking with people from overseas and helping them get better too. Germany, England, France, UAE, Australia, New Zealand are some of the places I have customers in currently. So, and I'm able to help all of you. Like yesterday on the phone with New Zealand, it was daytime her time, and it was like 8 or 9 o'clock my time. More than happy to hop on the phone and do that. But just you guys understand that getting in control of your insulin resistance just is about, for many of us, plugging the gaps in the nutritional system that's been created by a food industry that just wants us to buy more food, bottom line. So I would love to be your coach. I would love to help you with all of these little things and help understand how it's affecting you. If I can, not a doctor, can't diagnose, can't prescribe, can't any of that, but I can tell you what worked for me, what the science is saying, and what's working for many other people. And I can help you through this real food system. Before I hop off, I do want to mention it is we are one of the only companies in the world with real food products in the prescriber's digital reference. And that means your doctor can look it up and they can see the science behind it. They can see all of that. They can actually prescribe it, send you home with a prescription. You can turn that into your insurance. Many, many people have either used their HSA or their insurance to pay for the system. So if you think it's too expensive for you, at $5 a day, but you have good insurance, try the insurance route and see what happens. You may just be able to have it covered. Or if you're like many of the people that I talk to, that it starts working so well for them. Like a couple of people have their husband, their kids, they're like me, their grandkids utilizing the system for their better health. And so now they're getting discounts on every order because they have other people that they've referred to order as well. And that reduces their cost. So reach out to me though, you guys. Here's the thing. I'm toying with putting the link back in, but I really have enjoyed the conversations that I've been able to have, whether people buy or not. I get to have conversations with people and hopefully direct them in a better way to take care of their health. So the system, a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. And all it did was fix the food so that my body could recognize it and start dealing with things more normally. Now, somebody asked for me to talk about neuropathy this morning. I don't know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but blood pressure seems to be one that is always present. So I'll probably talk about blood pressure tomorrow, unless y'all message me and say there's something else you'd like me to talk about. And I will do a video today on neuropathy so that that's stored here, as well as share another story of neuropathy success. So you can see that this, why I get so such strong feels about insulin resistance being at the root of things is because I've had so many people who were suffering like I was and could not get control of their health until they started doing the system, and they realized it's way more than weight loss. It's all about the rest of your health and how you feel in your body. And wouldn't it be great to have a body that just feels great and not in pain and suffering all the time? That's really the importance of the system and getting insulin resistance under control. So I will see you guys in the morning, and let me know, message me, let me know what you want me to talk about. And I will certainly come back and talk about the things that are important to you guys. I noticed there's a few things that seem to be important, and kidney disease, PCOS, and blood pressure seem to be a couple of those. So we'll talk about blood pressure tomorrow. In the meantime, Whoops, I don't have that up. If you guys see anything um, on the list, this list above, that sounds like you, whether it's the depression, anxiety, hypothyroid, all of that stuff, let me know. I'm more than happy to try and explain how insulin resistance links into that so you can understand why this is so important. And it is hugely important. I think it's going to be one of the biggest things that changes our health history worldwide. And it's really important to get the word out there about this because we're not doing medications that are causing further damage. We're actually fully supporting the system, and that's why people are getting better. On insulin, I would like to know how to manage the insulin while fasting. Cheryl, are you type 1 or type 2 diabetic? Can you help me with that? Because the answer is going to be a little different whether you're type 1 or type 2. And that's a great question. Type 2. So hold on to your seat. Don't shoot the messenger. Please understand that this is coming from a place of really wanting you to have your health back. Let's talk about insulin and type 2 diabetics. Now, there's a big difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics, your pancreas does not function and cannot create insulin. And so you have to inject insulin to deal with the sugars, right? Type 2, your pancreas is actually producing too much insulin, so much that you become resistant to it. So in all their wise thinking in this give a type 2 diabetic insulin is really, 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 really old science. But you're giving your body more of what it's already resistant to. That's not the best way to deal with it. Dr. Ben Bickman, who's one of the top metabolic scientists in the world, talks to doctors around the world and in big seminars. And this is what I've heard him say. Giving type 2 diabetics is making them fatter quicker, it's making them sicker quicker, and it's killing them quicker. Because you're giving the body something that it's already resistant to. So why not start to understand if the body is resistant to insulin in a type 2 diabetic, why would we be giving it more of that? Why wouldn't we start to understand why we're having to put out so much insulin that our body doesn't want to recognize it as helpful and adjust that and start to get better in that way? So, if you're taking insulin, I don't know what kind of protocol your doctor has you on. Insulin should be in response to food you're eating. So if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're taking insulin, it should be taken in response to food that goes in your mouth. If you're in a fasted state and you're not taking energy in and insulin's not needed to deliver the energy, it should be a mute point, right? Now, for some people, because they're so insulin resistant and their body takes a while, remember your body's going to freak out a little bit when you go from constantly burning sugar to allowing it to burn fat sometimes. Your fasting window may look a little different. You may start with only a 12-hour fasting window and start working that up to be a 16-hour fasting window. And if you have to eat, maybe what you should focus on during that window is having some things like boiled eggs or avocado that aren't really going to spike your insulin but give you some nutrition. But there's so much more to your question than I can even address, but insulin should be in a type 2 diabetic should be in response to food you eat. So having that insulin in your body when you're not fasting is likely not necessary. So check with your physician, but you can do intermittent fasting with type 2 diabetes. It's one of the best ways to overcome diabetes in the first place for type 2 diabetics. Dr. Bickman has written about it. Mindy Pelz has written about it. Dr. Fung has written about it. Dr. Pradeep has talked about it, who's a cardiologist. We have another cardiologist, Dr. Ahmed. I just did a video with him the other day. He was suffering from insulin resistance and diabetes as a cardiologist, and it was embarrassing to him because here he's trying to help people and he's suffering. And he started the system, got his under control, and now recommends it to every single one of his patients. You can absolutely do some fasting on type 2 as a type 2 diabetic. But these, again, those are things that I work with people on as they're doing the system, and we just adjust for your lifestyle. Look, there's not a lifestyle out there that we cannot adjust this to. And that's the goal of this. It's not requiring you to be one specific person. It makes it so simple, easy, and sustainable. And it really does help. Now, I was put on metformin, Cheryl, as a type 2. I did not do insulin injections. I gave injections all day, every day for years. Um, Allergy injections, autoimmune stuff, uh, vaccines, just like so many injections. And I don't like to give them to myself. I just don't. So I didn't want to do insulin, and that was before I understood why the insulin was so bad for you, for a type 2 diabetic. Your husband 8 years ago had total kidney. He's a miracle. At first he was on a lot of meds. After 6 months, he took no meds, but he complains the bottom of his feet get burning, and no doctor seems to know what it is. Huh. So Melba, let's you and I have a conversation. We don't need to do it on Facebook. I do have some meetings until about 1 or 2 this afternoon. But can we talk this afternoon, Melba, and I'll help you understand. I need to understand a little bit more about what's going on with your husband, and maybe we can give you some answers as to why he's having neuropathy. The bottom of his feet burning is neuropathy, most likely. Um, Not knowing what it is. He's probably not diabetic yet. And so they're looking at his blood glucose and going, his sugars aren't high, he's not diabetic, but he has neuropathy. We don't know why. This is the breakdown in our medical system. You can have neuropathy in the absence of diabetes, most likely because your insulin resistance is so high that it's still causing that nerve damage before your blood sugars ever go up. And I think it's really important for people to understand that, so that you don't wait until it's that bad that now you have feet you can't walk on, stand on, hands you can't feel, you can't hold a glass with, and you have diabetes now and all kinds of other damages going on in your body. Why not address it now? There are so many warning symptoms of this insulin resistance that we're just ignoring because our doctors are ignoring it and not knowing how to put it all together. As much as I loved my physicians and have been personal friends with them, they did not catch any of this. None of it. And that's why I'm here talking about it every day now. In fact, many, many doctors are coming out and admitting that they've never been trained on this thing called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance and the work on it has been out for years, for more than 2 decades. However, most people did not dive into and look at it. Now they're starting to say, hey, we're noticing that in this group of people with this disorder, this percentage of people have insulin resistance. Why is that so prevalent? And on down the line. And so they're starting to put the links together. And now they're starting to do research into exactly why insulin is causing those problems in those people. So we'll be having more and more answers for all of that as the years come. But all they know now is that there's a correlation between insulin resistance and almost every disease and disorder that we have today that's lifestyle related. So why not address the root cause? If you're like me, I was on 13 medications, $10 a copay. That almost paid for my system anyway. But now I don't have all the snackety snacks and all the weird stuff that I was spending money on. You know, the stuff that we go spend money on and we don't pay attention to. And we're like pretending with ourselves that we're not doing that. And then we're wondering why our budget's off. Yeah, well, stop hiding from your habits and start building better habits, and give your body what it needs. Your body will heal if it has what it needs. Your body will heal if it has what it needs. Medication that's trying to force your body into certain actions is not necessarily what your body needs in every case. Give your body the building blocks of what it needs, and it's going to get better. Um, And that's my big thing, is if we can address that big elephant in the room, insulin resistance, especially with a simple system that's just 3 drinks that I have during the day that reversed my diabetes, reversed my blood pressure, took away my neuropathy and edema. And that's all I do. A tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink that I mix in some water before I eat anything, and that's it. Do I still have, like, yesterday we went for this big hike with my grandson. I went fasted because I still have some gastrointestinal issues, and I'm like, I do not want to be out on a trail and have any kind of urgency, so I just don't eat, which is easy for me because I'm fasted now. We didn't eat until like 2 p.m. yesterday. My daughter-in-law wanted to take my grandson for a Happy Meal, so I ended up with a chicken sandwich and didn't really eat the fries, and it wasn't a perfect meal. But you know what? I didn't have to worry about it because I had this first. Did I have some distress afterward because of the seed oils that were likely in that food? Yes. But this helped me through that without a huge glucose spike, without any of the negative side effects that I would normally have. Then, as I said, I just wasn't hungry because we ate so much later in the day. When I did get a little bit hungry, I was like, well, I'm going to focus on just getting in some protein and some fats, and that's going to tide me through the rest of the day. So that's what I did. I had a spinach artichoke artichoke and jalapeno dip, with a base of good healthy fats and a protein, and that's what I add for my dinner. Because I didn't need a formal dinner last night. I was just already too full, but feeling a little hunger. So anyway, you guys, follow the 6 simple steps, get the ebook, and let's start getting your neuropathy taken care of. And hey, look, if you have the kind of neuropathy that wasn't caused directly by insulin resistance, but you see symptoms of it getting better, and along the way you start having better health throughout the rest of your health, this is only a question you can answer. But is that worth it to you? So even if you have the nerve damage where you had an injury kind of neuropathy, and you understand that insulin resistance is causing more nerve damage, so you stop that, which can alleviate some of that pain, would that be worth it? Even if it doesn't cure it, it helped that, but it helped a number of other things. Would it be worth it? It was for me. And it will be a system that I do every day for the rest of my life now. Hydrogen SIBO. I would have to look that one up, okay? Because again, I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. So let me actually look that up right now. I'm not going to pretend to know stuff that I don't know. So I always want to be clear with you guys when I do or don't. We're going to look this up, and then I'll let you know. Always the best case is to talk to your doctor. It is in the PDR, Prescriber's Digital Reference. Yeah, okay. So basically the bacteria in your small intestines are primarily negative, and it's giving that horrible odor, right? So one of the other things, and thank you for the question, because that's going to help address a number of things for other people. One of the reasons that they're changing the formulation, we're going to be going to 2 of these a day and 1 of these. I will always do 2 of these a day because of the properties of the fiber that does, besides slowing down the sugars in the system, this helps feed my gut microbiome so that it starts to normalize. Again, when I get a hold of things that have a lot of sugar or seed oils, I will have absolute within an hour urgency and, explosive movements, all of that. But more often than not, like this morning, I woke up at 60 years old. You know what? Let's be honest. At 60 years old, we track our elimination, right? You should. But I wake up in the morning, and within a half an hour of waking up, I need to use the restroom, and it's normal. The look and movement is normal, and it hadn't been since my late 20s. So this helps feed my gut microbiome and balance out all of that gastrointestinal stuff that's going on as well. So it used to have some sucralose in it, and the amounts of sucralose in it were not damaging to us, but I know there's a lot of people who are extremely resistant to it. So now, if you're wanting Ari, something that's more natural, we now have a form of this, and we'll be moving to this in all of them. But the balance now is available in what we call natural. So yes, all natural with just stevia as a sweetener. People say the taste is a little different. Well, yeah, the formulation is a little different. You guys asked, so we're complying with that. But sweetening with stevia is going to make the taste a little different. But this, and currently only the lemon tea is available in natural. You won't get it directly through the link that I am able to send, that I send out to everyone. So Ari, if you use the link and send me a message saying you're interested in the all natural, I will get you a link for the all natural version where it's just stevia. This is gluten free, it's halal, there's no animal products in either one of these. So understand that, okay? But we can definitely help you with that. And you guys, to be honest, although I understand now that I've done the research that the sucralose wasn't really causing any damage or at any rate that was harmful to people, one of the first questions I had when I started the system was, why don't we use stevia? It's been 3 years. They've been working on the formulation, but it's now out. And one of the things I love with this company is there's several things. Our mission statement is to make life better, but they also listen to people. Now, do we have confusion and some problems just like any company? Yes. But you know what? When you order through me, that's what I dealt with a couple of these this weekend. I'm like, please lean on me. I can get a hold of the company and hopefully get resolved when you're having problems. That's what I'm here for. Let me do my job and help you out when you have issues, questions, whatever. That's what I'm here for. And you don't get that when you go to the store and buy Metamucil, right? Nor are you getting the efficacy of what's in these products. So I hope that answers everybody's questions. I know like 20 minutes ago I said I was going to get off, but it's important to answer everyone's questions. Melba, please understand, you guys, ADHD, I will have the best intentions. 3 hours go by, I will make a note for myself. I will put an alarm in, Melba. But if you have not heard from me by about 2 p.m. EST today, text me and say, hey, Misha. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, Melba, I'm so sorry. Let's talk. I will talk to you. Just remind me if you haven't heard from me by about 2 p.m. Okay, everybody else, it was a pleasure to hang out with you this morning. The book title, it's called Why We Get Sick. It's one book that I don't care whether you do the system that I do, whatever you do. If you really want to understand what's happening to our health today, and you really want to start getting it under control, get this book. I don't get paid for promoting this book. I do this because I believe that the information in here is so powerful, and I love Dr. Bickman. He writes in a very relatable way that's easy to read and digest. So this book can help you tremendously on where to go. Now, there are other authors out there, like I said, and so Dr. Fung is another one. Now, Dr. Fung has written the obesity code, the cancer code, and the diabetes code. Depending on what your issue is, maybe start with the diabetes code. He is an absolute advocate for fasting, although he doesn't do the system that I do. But he's also written books in tandem with other people, like this book, Life in the Fasting Lane. Also, if you're into the fasting part, and I know this is quick, these are all in my recommendations page on my website that I'll get to you if you message me. But Fast Like a Girl, Mindy Pels goes over fasting for women. This is a great book to have if you go down that link. All right, that was a lot of information. Why We Get Sick is the book you should get. I think the book is called How Not to Get Sick. It is on my recommendations page on my website. Check that book out too. It comes out in July, written by Dr. Bickman. He gives you recipes. He gives you a number of ways to start overcoming insulin resistance. Now, even some of my own team members, my own partners in the business didn't understand this. Look, I've been doing it for 3 years. I've studied a lot. I've learned a lot. What I do know, Dr. Bickman does not work for Unicity now. He used to, And he was part of the team that worked on these two products. In fact, Dr. Bickman drinks Unimate every day. And even though he doesn't work with Unicity, when he talks about GLP-1 stimulating drinks and the best form of yerba mate you can get, he always recommends this tea. Now, if you just want the tea, we have a special deal on that too. Message me and just say, I just want the tea. I can get you a link for that too, where you get a discount on the tea and get it a little cheaper than you would just by buying a single packet. I have 2 tea every day, a hot one and a cold one. Sometimes if I have a really busy day, I'll have a second cold one later in the day. So that could be 3 teas in a day. Is that harming me? Absolutely not. It's giving me a ton of nutrients and that antioxidant, anti-cancer activity, neuroprotective gene expression in my brain, a lot of really good components from a tea. Why wouldn't I drink it more than once a day? It's building health, and it's from that, my life has completely changed. You're so welcome, guys. Okay. All right, let's talk later today, Melba. I'm going to set that alarm right now. And the rest of you, I'll see you in the morning. We will go over heart problems, blood pressure, vascularity, how this is all affecting, because it's super important to understand this key piece of how it's affecting our heart, cortisol levels, all of that, so we can start to understand what's going on. By the way, if your blood pressure is 130 over 80 consistently, that's one of the top indications that you're insulin resistant. So, do I want you to work with your doctors? Yes. Is this something that you have to go get a prescription for? No. Should you start addressing insulin resistance when you start noticing these symptoms? Yes. A lot of doctors are missing putting all the symptoms together and going, hey, there's one common root with these, because they're taught to look at each separate piece. That's probably what's been happening to you. If you want to start looking at from a holistic model where you understand what's really going on, and then you get that addressed. And then, like for me, I was sick for a long time. I still have some latent issues in areas. Does this cure everything? No, I would never say that. But does it take that big elephant, that big piece out of the room that was confusing my doctors? Yeah, it definitely takes that piece out. Now the doctors can focus in on what's left. Although I don't, I worked enough in medical. I rarely, honestly, this is my choice. I want to preface that this is my choice. I rarely go to see a doctor about anything anymore unless it's like chronic that I just can't address myself, because I've learned that addressing my nutrition is the easiest way to address my health. And that's how I've taken care of my health over the last 3 years. And my kids remember when I couldn't walk and they were terrified that I wasn't going to live to be 65. They don't even think about it anymore. Nana's doing great, and that's all they know. So, all right, you guys, have a great day. We'll talk to you in the morning. I appreciate you hanging out with me, learning from me, asking questions of me. When you ask questions that I don't know, it gives me an opportunity to learn too. And I am at my core a learner. So you give me a gift every time you ask these questions. And I appreciate all of you. Okay. So you're very, very welcome, Tracy. We'll see you guys in the morning. All of you who know that I'm always late right now. I'm really working on getting everything in my life together so I can be here at 8:30 every morning on time. I'm going to try that, but we'll see the ties tomorrow around 8:30 a.m. Have a good day. It exited.